up, Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Why We Vote Friday night. And we had a last minute audible here before we went live, and I kind of changed things up on Ashe a little bit. So I apologize.
Yeah, so Brian jumped into the studio 15 seconds before we went live. Very, very excited about, what is it, a hearing that he just watched? And so we're doing that now.
Yes. Well, we're going to do part of that. We're going to probably, so I promise we're going to cover the Venezuelan testimony. So we are going to cover that. But there was a hearing yesterday in Georgia on election integrity, and we got all sorts of good stuff out of this. We got Eric, the CEO of Eric testified. Garland, Matt Bernhard, who is, I don't remember his exact role, but he's like one of the officials.
He burns hard, Brian.
He burns very hard, and he mats too. That was so lame. And then Garland Favorito. And Garland Favorito, like, there's an unhinged communist. I don't know how else to just lunatic. Let's just go lunatic. I don't know her political ideologies or leanings, but clearly a lunatic. And so we're going to play that. But before we do it, let's go ahead and get into our sponsors. And since you set that up, I'll let you run that.
Okay. Let me make sure they're all still here. Okay, they're all still here. We'll be right back.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back in stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
They say confidence starts with a smooth skin. And baby, Soft Disclosure Lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. Like, I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that, like, I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. Like, my hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without, like, rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting Soft Disclosure on. Like, it is black man approved. I kid you not.
Black man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
Feet are like, they get so dry, like the heels of them, it'll just kind of like flake off. Like, but with Soft Disclosure, once you put it on, like it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com, use code BADLANDS, and get 15% off.
You could make the argument that the more pharmaceuticals we have, the sicker we get. The more statins prescribed, the more heart disease there is, the more metformin taken, the more diabetes. And trust me, the more Ozempic we take, the more obese we'll get. That's because you cannot medicate a lifestyle disease. But 20 years ago, a study was done on a breakthrough, natural alternative that naturally helps the body shed excess fat. It naturally helps improve metabolic health. There are no drugs in it. It's Big Pharma's worst nightmare, and it's guaranteed to solve the problem. Head to badlandshealth.com to get started.
All right, and we're back.
All right, we are back. You ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to start out with Garland's testimony here, and I am going to do more on, I'm working on the research on the Eric part, because I think we caught a big admission during that testimony that ties back to 2020. And might actually be a federal crime. Like
All right, stop foreshadowing.
I'm foreshadowing. Let me.
You're going hard in the
Leave me
foreshadow.
alone. I've got my own brain is working overtime today. It's been a busy day. All right, let's go ahead and get in. So this is his presentation. Some of this you'll have heard before. Some of it you haven't heard before. Some of it we did years ago, but this is very relevant. And then Ashe is going to flip out on the rebuttal. But here we go.
I wanted to talk about the past, present, and future. Historically, my time.
Is that too low for you?
It's really low for me.
Oh.
I don't know if the audience has it better.
All right. No, so you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to throw these real quick into my my video editor and crank the volume up. And we'll go ahead and start with the Venezuelan testimony first. And
yeah, they said it's too low for them too. So
yeah, I figured. He's soft spoken, and sometimes when you do that recording, it kind of is weird like that. So we'll go ahead and start with the testimony. Let me get this pulled up here, and there we go. Let me present the screen, and I'm gonna have Ashe start reading it. All right, there we go. Okay, so do you want to set this up, Ashe? You know that this is the
this is the Tina Peters Venezuelan whistleblower testimony.
Yeah, so this is the testimony in the habeas corpus case. So this is in the federal court in DC, the same court that Ashe was in. And this is
Colorado.
Yeah, and do you want to explain real quick what a habeas case is?
Unlawful detention, that you need to be let out because you're being unlawfully detained. Her case is explicitly, they said, and the appellate court that reviewed her motion for bond, which was denied by the lower court, and then she appealed it. And that court said something to the effect, I won't remember the exact quote, but something to the effect of, she's a danger because of what she will say. And so we went to the hearing, I covered that hearing, and there were like 5 things. It was 3 things in the petition, but the judge broke it into 5 things and then basically said because it's federal court and Tina Peters was convicted in state court, she can't petition federal court until all of her remedies are exhausted in the state courts. That's how it works. And so she went to this hearing with 5 things, and I'm oversimplifying this, but it's just to get to the point of where we're reading this. And the judge basically said the First Amendment claim is the only one that he was going to hear because she has exhausted her remedies in the Colorado courts. And her habeas claim is that she's being unlawfully detained in Colorado based on, improper grounds. It's a nonviolent crime, et cetera, and they're keeping her locked up because they don't want her to speak. So on the 23rd of September, her attorneys filed. There was this whistleblower testimony. There was a Tori says filed an affidavit. They filed her affidavit, so this is, feels very similar to Sidney Powell in 2020. Saying it's, I don't know if it's the exact same affidavit or the exact same witness. It's new witness testimony because they took this deposition on whatever the date was, but it was recent. And this is the record that was submitted on the 23rd. Now, this is key to the First Amendment claim because if what Tina Peters is saying is true, it's all the worse for her to be locked up for it. Plus, that opens up the entire can of election fraud if she's allowed to prove it. And the judge asked for this briefing, so we'll see what happens.
All right. So this is an examination taken of a Venezuelan whistleblower. It was done in Florida, which I thought was pretty interesting. Smartmatic is based in Florida. Also interesting, well, not interesting, but noteworthy is that Walter Daugherty was on this, this remote examination that they did, the recording. He was overseeing it. And for those that don't know, Walter Daugherty is a professor at, I believe, Texas A&M. I believe it's Texas A&M.
I'm not sure.
And he's a professor in computer science. He's a Harvard graduate, has his, I guess it's his doctorate, I think, in computer science. So let's jump into
Well,
it.
hang on a second. His relevancy, I think, in this case, is that he's one of the co-authors of the Mesa County reports. So
Right.
this is, Tina Peters' case. He is able to speak to what was on those, expertly testify about what was on Tina Peters' images.
Correct. All right, so let's jump into this. This is all just them getting into who the guy is and all that. He was the 2003. He was the national coordinator for voting machines. What I thought this. Me and Ash had read this like the day I got it, and we were going through this and we're like, "Yo,
That's
for
fun.
somebody
It's very exciting.
that was very exciting."
We're very excited then.
Yeah, we got this. Like everybody was tagging me on this when it went public. I had this like 2 days
Yeah,
or 3 days.
we'd already
before.
read the whole thing when it went public.
And yeah, when it went public, me and Ash had already read the whole entire thing. So,
Yeah.
and as we're sitting here reading it, the guy's like, yeah, he's got to have his face, censored and blurred and everything because they're afraid that if they know who he is, they'll, do harm to him. And then they're like, in 2003, he was the national coordinator for voting machines, and like giving you all this information that anybody with half a brain could figure it out in 5 seconds on Google.
And certainly anybody with the resources of,
Spook.
large institution would be able,
Yeah.
especially a government institution. I think we should read the who he is part for the audience's sake, his background. So this is a Venezuelan whistleblower. He's communicating through an interpreter in this deposition. And it's John Case who is asking the questions. And you guys should remember John Case. He was the attorney, the older guy in Tina Peters' trial that represented her.
The one that sounds like Peter Navarro. Right?
Is he?
Oh, yeah. He's the one that sounds just like Peter Navarro.
Yeah.
Because I heard him when he was asking questions on it. So he says, sir, do you have personal knowledge of whether the election systems in the United States can be manipulated by foreign agents? The electoral system of the U.S. can be manipulated by foreign agents or third parties. Are you in danger, physical danger, if your true identity is known?
Wait. We have to each play a role. You just can't breeze through question and answer with no distinction.
Okay, then I will be the Spanish guy because I want to.
I'll be John Case.
I'm gonna build up to a good Spanish accent.
Good. All right, start over. But go back to the top, and I'll ask the first question.
Okay. All right,
sir. Do you have personal knowledge whether the election systems in the United States, the voting systems, can be manipulated by foreign agents?
The electoral systems of the United States. Why am I Russian? I don't know. I'm just going to read it.
I thought you were going French there.
French. It could be the electoral system of the United States can be manipulated by the foreign agents of the third parties.
Sir, are you in danger? Physical danger if your true identity is known?
See.
In order to protect your safety, have you and I agreed that your identity will be redacted in the final transcript of your testimony and that your face will be disguised and your voice will be altered by technology?
Correcto, mundo.
Have you received any money or thing of value in exchange for your testimony today?
No, señor.
Have you been promised any money or thing of value in exchange for your testimony today?
No, señor.
Can you tell us about your expertise in voting system computers?
Yo tengo 20 años de experience.
The chat says you need a sombrero, and I'm going to overrule that because that means something different now.
I have 20 years experience in electoral systems. This comes from Venezuela from 2003 onward, where we received, for the time, we configured the Smartmatic systems for the first time in Venezuela. We configured the transmission system and the tally systems. I was the national coordinator for voting machines. I was the national coordinator for national data, and I work in the creation of the situation rooms or war rooms for the Venezuelan. And then it's a cut there for the.
Oh, I could do the stenographer too. Mr. Vega, your audio cuts out at the end of your sentence.
We're just a motley crew here, man.
You were the national coordinator for the data situation rooms or war rooms for the Venezuelan government.
See, I was the person in charge in the situation room for the Venezuelan government.
Is the situation room called a war room?
Correcto.
Who is present in the war room during an election?
El presidente del Repúblico, the vice president. They could either be in there or in person or via the call. The main ministers for the country are there, and the president of Congress and what is called the National Assembly. In the specific case de Venezuela, it would be Diosdado Cabello, Jorge Rodriguez, Delchi Rodriguez. Why can't I say Rodriguez? Rodriguez. My Spanish dialect.
You
is not
speak
working.
Spanish better than you speak
I do.
English.
Delchi Rodriguez, Rafael Ramirez as president of the oil industry, high-level military personnel. Those are the ones that are in these situation or war rooms.
Yeah, because of course the president of the oil industry should be there when the election is being counted. And were you personally present in the Venezuelan war room with the people you just named during elections in Venezuela?
I worked together with them from 2004 to 2016.
And when was the last time that you were in the war room in Venezuela during an election? What year was that?
2015.
Briefly describe your expertise in computer technology.
Well, my high school degree is IT degree. That's how we call it in Venezuela. Aside from that, I went to the university to study telecommunications. And even though I didn't end up graduating on that, I studied telecommunications, business creation, and journalism. I am knowledgeable regarding programming systems, operating systems, such as Windows and Linux, and in telecommunications in general to be able to transmit the votes.
One person, one vote wants to know if you can say anonymity in Spanish.
Anonymity.
Oh, you did it better.
I've been saying it all day today. I did it like 5 times on Badlands Daily, like nailed it.
What were you responsible for doing in Venezuelan elections between 2003 and 2016?
I was responsible for configuring the voting equipment. I was responsible for configuring the electoral manager system, responsible for the transmission systems, responsible for the electoral system audits, along with the Carter Center and the European Union. On top of that, I was responsible for the data centers where we keep all the information of the voters' record, biometric systems, and the electoral systems before an election day.
Sorry, counselor. This is the interpreter. The interpreter was somewhat unclear in the last sentence of the witness, whether he meant the election systems, where we keep the election systems that were used during election days, prior election days, or to be used for future election days. Can you ask him that?
I mean the general system where you keep the backups for prior elections and where you would set up future elections. So in the case of Venezuela, the center is centralized in one place. It's very similar to what is done here in the United States, except for that each country has its own system and they operate very much differently. In Latin America, other countries have just a single voting system. And the United States has over 3,000.
Are you familiar with a ministry in Venezuela called the National Electoral Council?
See, I was an employee of the National Electoral Council.
And was it an employee of the National Electoral Council that you set up the war as an employee of the National Electoral Council that you set up the war room to manage the elections in Venezuela?
Correcto.
Did you also set up or direct others under your supervision to set up situation rooms in other states throughout Venezuela?
Correcto. We would create manuals so they can replicate the rooms and then send over the data to the main room.
So each state in Venezuela had its own situation room where the election data would be transmitted to the war room. Is that correct?
Correcto. Each individual monitors his state and then send over the studies to the main room. That's why I have the minister for the administration in each of the different rooms, because each minister is responsible for a certain number of states in the country.
Were the results of elections manipulated in Venezuela while you worked for the National Electoral Council?
Correcto.
And how were the election results manipulated?
In the case of 2004, 1 million fake voters were inputted into the system, into the record of voters. And then the electoral system was used in order to designate who each citizen had voted for. And at this point, I want to remind you guys that I played several times on this show the CEO of Smartmatic, Antonio Mujica, in Venezuela in 2017, admitting that there were over 1 million voters inserted into their election in 2017. So again, if it happened in 2017, it could happen all the time.
Sorry, the interpreter would like to make a correction. quote, and the electoral system was used to determine who each citizen had voted for, that the government later on used to be able to persecute those that were not within its ranks.
In 2006, a tool was used. The tool was called the SAES Data Util.
I feel like he would have said UTEL.
Util.
Can you explain how SIAS works?
SIAS Data Util is a tool that allows you to do general test of the entire electoral system. In order for you to test the entire system, you need to input the credentials or the certifications for the particular election. And this tool allows you to emulate voting machines in order to transmit the votes. So just throwing that out there. Remember that statement. The credentials, we've talked about that ad nauseum on this show.
Yeah.
Credentials being
EMS 7.
DVS Corp 08, exclamation point.
Yeah, they have one password and they all use the same username. So you don't know who did what because they're all using the same account. Was SIAS used in Venezuela to manipulate the outcome of elections, so change the results?
It was used by the technology directors. In this case, his name is Eduardo Hernandez. Later on, it was used by Delchi's cousin. His name is Luis Campos Cabello. Cabello would be a horse.
And how did they use SIAS to manipulate Venezuelan elections?
By using a statistical system known as the elector's behavior without exceeding a maximum of 2 or 3% of vote manipulation, while at the same time taking over a large number of voting machines that you need in order to change the total amount of votes that you need to modify. So specifically in the year 2008, the technology director for the National Electoral Council was in charge of transmitting the vote data from an entire state so that his relatives could win. And this could be corroborated because in the transmission system, the telephone companies have to show that all voting machines issue the transmissions through the official channels. And a red flag came up that particular state, that's the state of Merida, and had not issued its transmission yet. So it used a red flag in order for it to be determined that there was a failure or an error. And so the National Center of Tallying, or the Adjudication Center, responded that that's the entire state's data had already been transmitted. Yet there was no traceability, no trace that showed that the state had transmitted the data through the regular transmission channels. So the solution was to have all the different pieces of equipment retransmitted. But nevertheless, that would not change the final tally, because the tally, that was already there. The total was already there. And all the technical reports regarding these errors or failures were handed over to the military personnel. So they used SAES data utility tool to transmit the entire information for the entire state, because you can use it to transmit correctly all the state's data. This is supposed to be a tool that, for its normal usage, it's supposed to allow you to test the integrity of the system. When it's misused, it can allow you to inject votes without people knowing you did so.
All right, just so you know, there's a lot of haters on your accent in the chat.
Whatever.
I personally like it, but some people want you to stop. And can you tell us what SAES stands for?
System Automated Electoral Systems is its system. It's automated system because of elections or something similar. It's like a centralized electoral system. It stands for automated systems of elections or something like that. That is, it applies for the entire line of products from the Smartmatic company. Every product is called SAES. So in Venezuela, we had SAES 30,000, 3,300, SAES 4,000. And in the United States, Estados Unidos, they used SAES 3367 for Chicago, Illinois machines, where President Obama in the 2006 election cast his vote.
Is there a data utility feature for SAES?
So there's a tool, aside from the system itself, there's a tool called SAES Data Util that allows you to test the entire system. In general, any company providing election systems needs to have such a tool because they need to be able to prove the integrity of the system.
Can the SAES data utility tool be used to manipulate election results?
Correcto.
How does that work?
So in the case of Venezuela, this tool has been designated for the SAES system. So now if my system is integrated with an external system, I have to then adapt my tool to be able to test all of the element of my systems, plus the element of the other system that is being integrated with my system. Well, then this happened in 2005 when Smartmatic of the Venezuelan government, who owns the source code belongs to the government, made an integration with the American company called Sequoia Voting Systems when it was acquired in the year 2005 to then bring to pass the elections, carried out the elections in Chicago, Illinois in 2006. That then leading or selling its technology to Dominion Voting Systems in the year 2010. Meaning that I need to have a tool to test the integrity of the system, and I adapt that tool to the different integrations. That's why I'm saying that you would adapt the tool to each one of the systems, because each system has a different way in which this writes to the database and different processes.
Is auditing an election part of the Smartmatic software?
Sí, correcto. And it varies by state and country. And also when you audit an election or when you audit a system, you will be auditing only which the company wants you to see or what the electoral body wants you to see. In other
Pause
words,
there for a second. That's wholly consistent with what Clay has said about being with a voting system testing labs. There are parts that you are places in the code in the system that you are not allowed to go. You are only allowed to test what they allow you to test.
Amen. And that actually, you know what? I could play a clip for you real quick.
Nice. I love a clip.
A won, but they're not going to say, yes, candidate A got 2.5 million votes, for example. And, I want to say that the randomness in the RLA is really where the magic lies in terms of helping election officials understand their voting system as a whole, not just, their Dominion machines or their EMS system, but also how their poll workers behave, how their counties are acting if you're at a state level, how your precinct captains go through your election night procedures, all that stuff. Because RLAs are doing a random sample, tends to make it surfaces problems a lot more efficiently than you otherwise would, right?
The magic is in the randomness, Ash. The magic is in the randomness, except they're not random. They're all done through.
That kind of ties back to what Halderman said in Mike Lindell's trial about how the voting behavior is just so random that no statistical modeling can ever apply to it.
By the way, that guy studied under Halderman.
Sure.
He did.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just my sure was more like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Okay. Reading on. In other words, it's not like the audit is like an open audit. Only the modules and the functions that the public needs to know are audited. That is why you have been unable to detect whether a library has been hidden, has been locked, or it can be manipulated. And you are not auditing tools like this one either, like SAES data utility tool, which are tools that allow you to inject votes. So people end up not knowing what the tool's actual purpose or utility is.
I just like to say you just missed an excellent opportunity to say biblioteca, and you did not.
Biblioteca.
Mm-hmm. So if an audit discovers a problem, was there a strategy of how to explain that to the public?
No, porque you would never show the public the errors of the system. You would only show the functionality of it. All right, I'm losing my accent. It was only in 2004 that it was uncovered. It's going Indian for some reason. That's like my go-to whenever I do an
Everybody thought you were sounding Jamaican, actually.
Well, I was earlier. I did have a couple words, but Caribbean, Venezuela, it's whatever. But it was only in 2004 that it was uncovered that you could find out who people voted for. And by 2005, there was a modification made, but that was the only thing.
I just like it to be said. He did that accent for 18 pages.
I mean, come on.
What was the role of human error in terms of public relations? How did human error figure into the public relations of Smartmatic?
When any company, and that doesn't just apply to Smartmatic, when any company mentions human error, what you're doing is you're putting the responsibility for the blame on a person and not the system itself. It's easier for me to fire somebody from a company and then pay them for severance package as compared to me losing my entire business because my electoral system or the system that I'm selling has errors. I would end up losing everything. And that's why you can read up how all these different electoral companies, they're always alleging human errors here and there. Therefore, any type of manipulation of elections, you need to have the company to provide the certs because they are the ones who know how their own system works. They know how to make an injection into the system in an undetectable manner so that when a detailed audit of the elections is performed, it wouldn't show any sort of trace.
Is this SAES data utility similar in its security to a key to a house?
Correcto.
Can you explain?
This tool allows you to emulate a voting machine. It allows you to emulate multiple voting machines, which means that I can transmit on behalf of a machine as if I was that machine. The original machine is not transmitting, but I'm emulating this machine and I'm transmitting whatever data I need to transmit. In the case of Venezuela, the machines that would be transmitted, the data to the machines that would be transmitted were the machines that were not going to be audited. And I want to remind you, the 10 machines, ghost machines in Fulton County in State Election Board Complaint 2023-025.
Speaking of which, there was news in that case today.
What was the news in that case?
That they have 14 days to find somebody to prosecute the case or it's going to be dismissed.
Oh, no. That's the Trump RICO case. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's the Fannie Willis case.
I thought this was that case. It was McAfee.
No. State Election Board Complaint 20235 is the one that they just subpoenaed. The State Election Board just subpoenaed all the physical ballots, stubs, and envelopes. And I did an episode on this on my podcast over the week.
So not a court case.
No, that's not a court case. Not yet.
Wow. Still exciting news about Fannie and Fulton.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of Venezuela, was the SAES data utility used to transmit fictitious votes?
That is correct. That's the function for which the Venezuelan government would use that tool for.
Bay Theater Dave says, this is the worst screenplay I've ever read. Fair. How was the Venezuelan government involved in developing the Smartmatic software that was used to run Venezuelan elections?
Their involvement was 100%. The software was created by the Venezuelan government. Historically speaking, the government financed Smartmatic for it to create the software. This is obvious and public information based on the audits that the European Union did of the elections of 2004, where its president, the president of Smartmatic, Antonio Mujica, he informed the European Union that the source code was property of the National Electoral Council.
What is the connection between Dominion voting systems, Sequoia voting systems, and Smartmatic? How are those three entities related?
So Smartmatic purchases Sequoia in 2005. So the SAES software is implemented for the element of Sequoia. From 07 to 13, Sequoia and Dominion worked for the elections in the Philippines. And that relationship allows Dominion to purchase Sequoia in 2010 and allowed it to, he repeats himself, the SAES election software from Smartmatic ended up being implemented in Sequoia and later on transferred to Dominion. And you have two engineers there. Their names are David Moreno and Ronald Morales, which were the ones that handled the integration of the software belonging to Smartmatic called SAES and integrated it into Sequoia. And then these very same engineers did the integration from Sequoia to Dominion in the year 2010. Currently, these engineers still work for Dominion and they are in charge of their software. Pause there for a second. So this is something that, when all this first went down, I dug deep onto this, and there was a big bankruptcy case for Sequoia, and that's where a lot of this stuff surfaced for the first time. That Smartmatic sold to Sequoia, Sequoia sold to Dominion, and they always say like there was no the intellectual property is Smartmatic's. Sequoia's is Sequoia's, Dominion's is Dominion's. There's no crossover between them. But if you read the actual bankruptcy claims, the IP was often almost in total part of the transactions that took place. And so, it's one of those little nuanced things where they don't tell you what they're getting in the deal. They just tell you they're getting intellectual property. And again, it was Eric Holder's DOJ that forced the divestiture of Sequoia. I think it was ES&S that owned them and forced ES&S to divest of Sequoia. And then Dominion bought them up in 2010. Okay, yes. Keep going.
Speaking of screenplays, where is the Where's the worldwide global headquarters for Dominion Voting Systems Incorporated?
They have 3 headquarters in the United States, Canada, and Belgrade, Serbia. It's in Serbia that they develop the programs that are then implemented here in the United States. Ronald Morales is the person in charge of configuring the entire security network, so these 3 different headquarters can communicate between themselves. And during the day, at that point in time, they used initially VPN networks. And during the days that the American elections were held, Serbia is the office that is responsible for resolving the errors that pop up in the systems. Interesting.
It is interesting. Is it possible for, especially because it's just so remote, right? So far away.
And they're air gapped. So how would they
It's
possibly be able to do it?
You can't get, it's an impenetrable fortress, that air gap. Is it possible for engineers in Serbia working for Dominion Voting Systems to inject votes into an election in the United States of America?
Though I don't have evidence of that, it is possible. If I happen to have remote access to the system, I can make changes in the electoral system.
And would that be by using the SAES data utility tool?
No.
And then how would it be done?
Well, we need to understand something. Let's not end up marrying this tool by name rather than its functionality. So what this tool does, the SAES data utility, it uses the library for the electoral systems that were first used in Venezuela and then transferred over to Sequoia and then finally to Dominion. It uses system votes or errors. Let's call it the libraries, the bibliotecas. The bibliotecas for data transmission, data encryption by bibliotecas, the communication between the database. That's your fault.
I love it.
You did that, not me.
Let's see, now the chat's like, some of the people in the chat are mad that you're not using the accent anymore.
Oh, man. So what SAES data utility does is that it takes the credentials or passwords for an election so that the system can authorize it to connect itself. And then it can inject as many votes as it needs to. If the Dominion system have bugs in their libraries, then in turn, you can use those bugs while having the correct credentials or passwords and use the processes of the same system to then inject the votes that are needed, whether it be minutes, data, or votes. Whatever the system allows me to do, I will be able to do it while using those libraries.
Did you review the forensic image of the Mesa County election management server from the November 2020 election?
Sí, señorita.
And John Case is not a señorita. He would be a
you're
senior.
reading it. I'm not assuming his gender, but I know your gender.
I think we can assume his gender. I think he would be offended if we didn't assume his gender. And what did you find in your examination of that forensic image?
That the electoral systems of Dominion have vulnerabilities that can be used to attack the system. Its source code is not 100% obfuscated or hidden. The use and handling passwords, they're all stored in plain text. They're all stored in plain text. They're all stored in plain text.
And our audience is aware of this because we did like 7 episodes with Phil showing them.
Which allows you to get that data, from the database. You can get it from the backups of the different elections, from the setting files of an election, and from the button device that allows to have access to the equipment, because their credentials are also stored in the button itself. Now, one thing I want to remind you of is, throughout all of these cases that we've seen, most of the time, the passwords on the Dominion voting machines were set by Dominion themselves. They didn't even go in and change the passwords. So the passwords are not only known to everybody working in the office, the same across the board, they're also known by Dominion themselves, according to the court reports on this.
But Jenna Griswold told me that doesn't matter because there's 2 sets of passwords.
Well, they're gonna debunk Jenna Griswold in this testimony as well. So once you have that information, and if you know how the system operates, then you can attack the encryption levels, which then literally allows you to manipulate the system and change votes at will. Additionally, on top of that, the Windows operating system, Jenna Griswold, has in turn vulnerabilities and can also be attacked using an error code. It's called the internal blue. It's an attack system that even the entity the NSA uses here in the United States.
Now, after the 2020 election, we were told by the Attorney General of the United States that 2020 election was the most secure in history. We were also told by the Colorado Secretary of State that the Colorado voting system was the gold standard for running elections. Can you tell us if that is true? Are our elections in the United States and Colorado really secure?
No, they are not secure.
Can any election be run fairly and securely using Dominion software, which is so susceptible to manipulation?
Well, we have to keep in mind or understand something clearly. No system is infallible. Dominion software is a software that has a lot of errors or bugs, and they have had many years to correct them, and they haven't done so. From an IT standpoint, you could even say that the types of errors that they have made are very basic. But the reason why those errors are intentionally there is because they need it. They need them. Now, you can be cured. Can they be cured in the future? Of course they can. Is it possible that you can have a secure election using electronic voting systems in the future of the United States? Of course. But the current software that Dominion voting system is using right now cannot ensure that an election cannot be manipulated, because if we, not knowing how their system worked, were able to detect the bugs, that means that either an engineer or a technician working for Dominion that have even better knowledge than we have can use his or her system to manipulate the votes as needed. And it can be done indetectably without being detected. Thank you for defining that for me.
Have you understood all of my questions as translated by the interpreter?
Correcto.
Did you answer all questions truthfully?
Sí, verdad.
Were your answers based on personal knowledge?
Totalmente.
Okay, you have another appointment and you have to interrupt this to go to that appointment. Yes, I told you that earlier. I had to leave to go to this appointment.
All right, so we can halt that there. Okay, so we will do part 2
next week.
Next week. And I got the video file now, and I've got it turned up for you guys. So let's play this now. And think about that testimony we just read and some of the things that Garland actually says here.
So remind everybody what this is again. Set up the.
So this was there was.
You don't need 5 minutes of foreshadowing, but just
this is the Georgia State Legislature. They brought in a bunch of. There was a committee in the Georgia State that brought in a bunch of like election experts and NGOs and all the other stuff. Eric was there. Garland was there. There was somebody for the Arlo system, and a couple people for Georgia. And I'm not finished with it, but I got through Garland's today, and it was epic.
Talk about
Garland
past,
is what we're going to play, right?
And future.
Yeah.
Historically, my topic was current and future security.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Thing that I think you might.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit because we all know who Garland is. And let's go ahead and start right about here.
Voters, I would urge you also, I'm grateful for Mark Davis's presentation today. I'd also urge you to talk to Dr. Rick Richards. He has the most secure and widely used system for cleaning voter rolls. But we're going to focus in on the counts today. And before we do that, I just want to thank y'all, and I want to recognize that you have made 24 legislative improvements since 2020. And I've worked with a lot of y'all on these, and I just want to say thank you for that. I'd love to go through there, but we don't have time. But we are recognized, at least by my peers around the country, as having the best improvement since 2020 in legislation. And I know y'all suffered through a lot of false attacks and voter suppression and all that, but we are grateful for you. One of the key things I want to mention to you is that, a statewide system sounds good for control, but that means that you're limited to a single point of attack vulnerability. Only 3 states deploy a common statewide system. I think South Carolina and Louisiana, the other 2. And the problem with this is if you compromise the election preparation server in the Secretary of State's office, you can deliver malware through the county servers for every election and down to all of the precinct tabulators and absentee ballot scanners. The counties have no mechanism to detect that malware that's received from the states. I want to move to the expert witness testimony in the DeKalb GOP case that just came out in 2024. We have found out now that the system that we're using, Democracy Suite 5.5, was never legitimately certified by the EAC. And that's because it requires encryption keys to be stored in an encryption module. The requirements require that to be stored in an encryption module. Dominion stores their encryption keys in clear, plain text, which violates the 2005 certification guidelines under which it was allegedly certified in 2019. That means anybody can easily decrypt and change the results. In addition, the system is not certified to be safe for use as required by the state laws. So that's the system right now is illegitimately certified, and that's not me talking. That is expert witness testimony from the case that I mentioned earlier that just came out last year. There are many problems with the unsecure password design. One of the admin accounts is hard-coded. The password is publicly known. You can even buy it on a T-shirt. The passwords are not irreversibly hashed, and they are generic, so they can't be traced to an individual who's updating a transaction. Most importantly, though, what came out in this case is that the Dominion Democracy Suite systems are set up to communicate with each other via a common shared value in an X.509 certificate. So there's nothing wrong with using the certificate, but every state and every implementation should have its own unique shared value, just like you would have your own unique password. So these systems are set up now, and not just one component, but all the components based on the expert witness testimony are set up to be configured to be accessed literally by anyone. That means that you can get in once you decrypt and then change the results. And this was demonstrated by Clay Parikh in court on hacking an authenticated copy of a Georgia County server, unrefuted by the defense, and he manipulated the results in 3 minutes with 6 lines of code. That is not DEF CON, that is actual court case.
Let that sink in. Shout out Clay. 3 minutes, 6 lines of code, hack the machines.
In court with an authenticated copy of the county server that was not refuted. The other thing that is important to know is that the Georgia County servers and others are, we now know, are maintained at part or all by Serbian programmers. They were accessed in the 2020 election and in the 2021 U.S. Senate race. Not saying that was nefarious. They appeared to be correcting problems in counties, ballot rejection problems. But we've been told that these systems are not connected to the internet. They're not wired in any way or have remote connectivity. That's just simply not true. We know this from discovery emails and depositions in various court cases. Most importantly, in a forensic evaluation of one of the Georgia County servers, an expert witness named Ben Cotton, whose resume is a mile long, conducted a forensic study on one of these authenticated copies of a Georgia County 2020 server. It showed internet connectivity. Not only that, the study found that there were over 3,000 server program files that were modified after its installation in 2020 that would automatically decertify the system. In addition, the server had a compiler on it. And we now have learned that most all these systems have compilers. The compiler allows a bad actor to issue instructions to that computer and then spread malware down to all the components undetected. There's no reason for a compiler to be on any voting system in the state of Georgia or anywhere else in America, but that's what is happening right now. And again, all based on expert witness testimony.
Let me just pause there for 1 second because I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit with the Venezuela testimony. But in the next segment that we're going to do next week, you'll find out that the guy says that these machines can connect to the internet without you even knowing that they're connecting to the internet. Even if you think you remove the modem, there can be a modem, in the machine that you're not aware of. And so when you think about the passwords being in plain text available anywhere you look, and then you think about those compilers being on there and the ability for somebody to remotely access the machines and manipulate them in some form or fashion. One of the things we picked up in the curling case from Halderman was that these systems are running like Android 14, which is Android 7.0, I think, which is 14 years old. They don't even make updates for it anymore. So there's no patches for it. And the other thing you have to remember is when you get a patch doesn't mean they found something and they're fixing it. It means somebody else found something and they're fixing it, meaning it's something that's already been exploited. Patches aren't proactive, they're reactive. And so, when you put all that together, you might think, well, there's no evidence that any of this happened. Well, you wouldn't detect this. First off, they're not looking for it. Second off, it's indetectable, as the guy said in the testimony. And we're talking about the election of a $21 trillion country. This is not my system, right? I mean, maybe my system, the feds would want to hack in and do some nefarious shit. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Is the part that you said was going to blow my mind coming up soon?
No, it's a separate clip. Well, it's on this clip. It's on this clip, but it's not Garland speaking. It's the questions at the end. We're almost halfway through with Garland.
Okay.
That raises the question, who's responsible for cybersecurity in the state Secretary of State? We asked that question to these three individuals under oath.
I remember that.
Mr. Sterling said it was Michael Barnes. We got Mr. Barnes on the stand. He said it was the former Chief Technology Officer, Merritt Beaver. And he said, no, it's actually under Gabe Sterling. Bottom line is there is no one responsible for cybersecurity. Therefore, we don't need to be having anything that can be remotely accessed. I want to leave you with a copy. I'm going to submit this for the record. Here's an actual ballot where the human readable text did not match the vote that was actually accumulated and counted. This is the famous District 2 commission race in DeKalb County. And this was discovered by a candidate because she got 0 votes in the precinct where she and her husband lived and voted, and her family. 0 votes. So this proves that logic and accuracy testing does not work, which is what the experts have been telling us for many years, as we have too. You also need to be aware that a QR code error was found in 65 of 67 Georgia counties, and that was the state election board complaint. That error caused the state of Tennessee to decommission the same system, Dominion Democracy Suite 5.5 system, as we have here. The election board, I submitted 2 rules that were unchallenged and passed by the state election board to detect the error by reconciling tabulator tapes with ballots, total ballots cast on the recap sheets. That rule was never delivered to the counties to make sure that reconciliation happened in 2024. Despite 3 letters I wrote to the state election board chair. So let's start talking about solutions. First of all, you've heard that logic and accuracy testing is a solution. I just proved to you, I think, that it's not. But that is consistent with what Dr. Stark told you last time, as well as Dr. Haldeman in his security analysis. No practical method of pre-election or parallel testing can prevent malware-based fraud. The reason is the system can be programmed to count differently during testing versus an election, and or after a certain number of ballots are cast, and very few ballots are actually tested here in Georgia and most locations.
Pause it
We
for a
talked
second.
about risk limiting audit. Dr. Stark has
So just notable, Halderman said that before the 2020 election. And then after the 2020 election, he changed his story to, yeah, he said that. And I guess it's true, but it doesn't matter because we have a paper record and risk limiting audits. Now think about that for a second. How does a paper record and risk limiting audits prevent from undetectable malware?
It doesn't.
It doesn't, and it can't. The idea is, well, we'll just, with the risk limiting audit, we do an audit so we know that nothing bad happened. They use an algorithm to pick which ballots they're going to look at in a risk limiting audit. It's such bullshit. Keep going.
All right.
Explained well, and that risk limiting audit does not apply to BMDs. Ballot marking device does not have original source of voter intent, and he gave you a whole list of reasons why that's not good. We have grotesquely misrepresented audit results here in Georgia. I just heard that the 2020 audit for the umpteenth time matched the original results. That's not true. Governor Kemp's 36-point report explains that the hand count audit in Fulton County did not confirm the results. His report is based on our evidence that we provided through Joe Rossi. I think Eric Christian will talk more about that. We had senior poll managers and auditors found counterfeit ballots during the hand count. They were mail-in ballots, not mailed, not creased from being mailed, toner copied, unusual paper stock, and they were voted the same way down ballot for dozens in a row. We also produced a study on March 7, 2022 that shows that the Fulton County absentee ballot images were electronically altered before the results were certified. That is the key point I want to come back to in a second. And State Election Board 2023-025, which I urge you to understand this case, has shown many, many problems. 17,000 certified votes that have no ballot images, 20,000 missing source tabulator tapes, 3,900 double scanned, double counted, and approximately 16,000 that were actually batch uploaded in backfill. That's a whole another subject that I urge you to look into. And then finally, we get to the 2024 image audit. Is this a solution? No, it's not a solution because it was a ballot image audit. It was not a paper ballot audit.
Yep.
We've already exposed this as a fake audit. If you've got to audit paper ballots, not images, and I was glad to see Hans Voting agree with me on that. So we're now faced with federal decertification. Executive Order 14248 as decertifying QR-coded voting systems. That is based on the Help America Vote Act, which requires the vote to be verifiable. On top of all that, we've got foreign ownership, hardware components, foreign hardware components, and software support that don't meet federal critical infrastructure guidelines. And you've heard the DNI director say that they have evidence now of electronic voting vulnerabilities and manipulation. In the April 10th cabinet meeting, the voting system security assessments are now complete. We should be hearing more from the federal government on that soon. So what is your solution here? One, you have avoidable contract. The page 54 of the Dominion contract says it specifies a barcode read by a tabulator. The U.S. District Court and the General Assembly has found that the system is illegal, and in Georgia, a contract to do an immoral or illegal thing is void. So just the last two to sum up here, as I know I'm about out of time. To authenticate the ballots, what do we need to do? Hand-marked paper ballots, unique IDs for those ballots, and make them free to the public. And this is consistent with the Georgia Supreme Court ruling from 2020, which they said that the paper ballot statutes govern BMD elections, and that includes 212437, where they specifically referenced any ballot marked by anything but a pen or pencil shall be void or not counted. And then finally, last slide, authenticating the counts. How do we do that? There is no practical or partial audit that will guarantee vote system accuracy in a major close race. As I think Enhanced Voting explained, it takes a long time to pull randomly select ballots. It's simply easier to hand count the races. And that's what 212437 advocates. So I'll leave you with Dr. Haldeman's analysis. He says that the system was developed without sufficient attention to security during design, software engineering, and testing, and it would be extremely difficult to retrofit security into a system that was not initially produced with such a process.
So I want to pause right there because that's actually contradictory to what the Venezuelan guy said when he said that Dominion could update the system and make it more secure and make it much more safer, but they choose not to, and that these are fundamental errors that they made in the system.
Yeah, but you can't. So to Halderman's point there is correct. If you don't build the system with security in mind, particularly from a hardware standpoint, you're coming in, you can't take all the machines apart and check their individual component parts, right? Contractually, you can't do it. You're not allowed to touch them. But also, that would be an incredibly burdensome thing to do and would kind of eliminate the point of using them entirely, which to me sounds great, but is not going to happen for that reason. And so you can't. You can, but now, of course, Halderman has since changed his story and says that risk limiting audits and paper ballots means that this is, it's secure enough for democracy.
That's one of the things I'm going to use Comet for, the new Perplexity assistant. I'm going to use it and take Halderman's old initial report and then the draft report and then the final report and have them read both of them and summarize what the differences between the two are. And I don't know.
You mean the report before he met with the state of Michigan and then the report after he met with the state of Michigan?
Wasn't it like 4 times that he met with them?
Twice, I think.
Twice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost done. And then we get into the rebuttal and Ashe is going to, you're going to watch her head explode at the first remark that this woman makes.
So the solution we would recommend is Senate Bill 303 that is sponsored by Senators Moore, Gooch, and Dolezal. And that provides for publicly recorded hand counts at the precinct where votes were cast. We will provide, in case that concerns you, we'll provide the actual hand count test times. It's much faster than people believe. So that said, I thank you for the time. And
just a quick little segue.
Hello, Mr. Favorito. So I just want to push back on this contention that you started with, which is that there's no trust in our elections. I'm sure, you have some self-selecting voices in your ear that are saying that to you. But we had a poll just last year that shows that over 2/3 of Republicans, not Georgians, but Republicans, are happy with how elections are run in Georgia. So
okay,
I do want to start.
Well, let me respond to that. I think your poll is obsolete because the Rasmussen poll that was just conducted a couple of weeks ago found that 2/3 of all voters are concerned of vote manipulation in the 2026 election, and that's a national poll that includes Georgia.
Well, I'm concerned with Georgia.
Right. Well, I am too. That's why I'm here. And I've been here. That's why I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yes. And what the polls say about the Georgia elections is that most people are satisfied with our election.
No, that's not
a year ago.
The Rasmussen says that 64% are concerned.
The Georgia specific polls say that not just most Georgians, but most conservatives are happy with our elections. But I do have
who gives a shit what a poll says?
Right? When
that's what you have. You're the government. You have the ability to bring in the Dominion people and the people that wrote the statutes and your own experts and all these things. And you're calling a poll from a year ago?
Like Garland just sat there and was like, Clay Parikh broke down your system, hacked your system with 6 lines of codes in 3 minutes. But the polls say that people are trusting of the election. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's pretty special.
That was the stupidest remark. Like, I got to go back tomorrow. I'm going to go back and clip like just the individual sections and try and get Garland's points down to like 1 minute and then play that as the response. Here's all the evidence, but the polls say people do trust the election. So don't worry about it. Oh my God. I hate these people.
Yeah, because public sentiment is what matters when we're talking about fraud.
That's
like,
insane.
I mean,
Good.
Public sentiment has grown in calls for election integrity. After the 2020 election, it was around 30%. Now it's, I would say, at least 70, but you've got 2/3 for sure at this point. And there was a period of time where you and I were speculating that it was 2/3 and it was going to be forever. Now people want election integrity, but public sentiment is not the metric here. accuracy of elections must be the metric. It must be. Otherwise, why are we doing this? And you know, you haven't listened to the full rebuttal, is that right?
No, I have listened to it. I have.
Are we going to listen to the rest of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted the best response Garland could have given right there, and I've obviously had time to think about this, is when she said 2/3, you know, are they trust the machines. I would have responded, well, Brad Raffensperger was only polling at 35% in the buildup to the primary in 2022, but he ended up winning by 52%. So your polls don't mean shit. They're off by 17%. Go ahead.
She didn't say people trust the machines. She said people are happy with how our elections are run. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
If what Garland said is true, there is an existential threat to democracy.
Yep.
But the people don't. The people are fine.
They didn't have to wait in line.
There's a poll from a year ago that said everybody's happy, so we're good. Garland, stop telling us how corrupt and fraudulent everything is.
And that's a loaded question. What do you mean by what was the context of the poll where people are happy? Are they happy that they didn't have to wait 3 hours to vote like Maricopa County? Are they happy that, you know, they got in there and the people were very friendly? Are they happy about that? Are they happy? Do they know all this? Do they know all this information? They're ignorant right now. So of course, somebody that's ignorant to this is going to look at this and be like, okay, it was a pleasant experience to vote. I'm happy with it. It's what a retarded answer from that woman.
Can I make a prediction?
Yes.
I think that she's going to talk about access.
No.
About GA?
No.
Absolutely.
I would like to ask you some questions about voter GA. So what is the goal of your organization if you had to sum it down, boil it down?
Okay, so just remember this, Ashe. You and I have sat here and watched numerous nonprofits, NGOs, officials, expert witnesses, all these people be questioned before. Name one time, Ashe, that somebody has ever been questioned the way about Garland's about to get questioned.
Like interrogated about the purpose of their organization.
What does that mean?
Never.
That means, well, right now we have a system that is vulnerable to, not only vulnerable to the internet, but we actually have now court evidence that it has, in fact, been accessed. And it has a lot of foreign involvement as well. And therefore, I think it's time that we need to consider a simpler solution, which is what I pointed to, which would simply be hand-marked paper ballots, which is most people agree on both parties, and hand counting of the votes. If you have hand counting of the votes, let me just finish.
Given your goal,
there would be
your goal for election integrity.
Can I just finish my point? There would be no divisiveness between Democrats and Republicans. If there was publicly recorded hand counts, everybody would know who won, and there would not be any confusion or questions about an election after it's been conducted.
Thank you. Given your goal for election integrity, how active has your organization been in calling for an investigation in the breach in Coffee County?
We have basically talked, we have a lot of information about that. Well, first of all, let me back up.
Please.
You called it a breach. Now I had to cut off.
So let's just clear up what we're talking about. We're talking about people from outside the election office gaining access to the election equipment, going in the night when they weren't supposed to be there, putting in USBs into the equipment and getting information off of the machines, right?
Well,
so how involved has your organization been in calling?
It was in the middle of the day.
It was in the middle of the day, right? They were on the surveillance camera, and it was daytime.
It was in the middle of the day. They were welcomed by the county clerk down there. They were the elections board, the county election board chairman, I think, was present as well. There were other people present. None of them. She's talking specifically about Jeff Lenberg and Doug Logan.
Yep.
None of them ever touched the equipment.
Yep.
They used the county provided device cards. And all of this was subject to was the subject of a litigation hold that had been issued, and the data that was pulled went to a company that specializes in data retention for litigation. Like,
And that company was paid by the county officials.
I don't remember who paid it. It might have been the Trump administration. This was all part of Sidney Powell's lawsuit, and I believe Lynn Wood's lawsuit back in 2020.
Well, regardless, she's editorializing. She just said it was in the middle of the night.
100%.
She said they stuck USB into the machine, so she's just making stuff up now.
Right. Now, what she doesn't mention is that the clerk down there, Misty Hampton, that clerk was, or excuse me, Kathy Latham, I believe it was, the GOP chair in Coffee County, was talking with Brad Raffensperger. I can't remember if it was both Brad Raffensperger and Gabriel Sterling or one or the other, but telling them in the build up to the election, hey, our machine is jacked up. We need another machine. It's not working properly. And they said, okay, we'll get it to you. It was Brad. And then from Brad, it went to Gabriel Sterling. Gabriel Sterling's, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. They never dealt with it. So on election night in Coffee County, they had a machine that was working like absolute dog shit. And the Dominion rep ended up fixing it remotely. He fixed it without ever touching it. And
Which is crazy because the air gap fortress.
So let's keep going with this.
For an investigation of that.
We were involved in the court case that had to do with that, and a lot of the evidence was put out in that court case.
And you have a big network, according to your deck here. Have you been active on social media calling for an investigation?
So let's walk through this.
Yes or no? Have you been active on social media calling for an investigation of that?
That has not been our top priority.
There was a full
so the breach of the election machines and the data contained in the election machines doesn't fit within your goal of your organization to improve election integrity?
No, that's totally untrue.
Okay, so why haven't you been active in that?
Well, unfortunately, we had to go back and I had to cut out, because of the time, the information. Let's go back to the original breach that occurred in 2017. Now, this is an active election, not an inactive election like in Coffee County. But in an active election, back in 2016, Logan Lamb found that the system was wide open to the internet. We have been actively—
2017?
2007.
So that's the previous system that we had. So let's try to focus on the current system that we have, because that's before we changed machines.
The problem
I'm talking about a breach
is—
on the machines that we have right now.
The problem
How
is—
involved have you guys been in calling for a prosecution, investigation of that? No.
Can I answer? You're not letting me answer.
I don't want to talk about the old machines.
Well,
I don't want you to answer it the way you want to. I want you to answer it the way I want
and I
you
just
to.
want to give you—
Just asking about permission and what you've done.
I'd like to be able to—
Sir, me
like
pointing
to
out
be
that
able to
hypocrisy does not is not an attack on your integrity.
Okay.
So let's move on.
So, no, you're not letting me answer the questions. You're making statements, and then you're not letting me respond, and then you're saying move on. That's pretty unethical.
I don't say it's unethical.
Okay.
But let's focus on voter GA.
Let's move on. We do have a hard cutout at 3:30, so I want to be respectful to our next speaker, and hopefully we can have some public comment.
I just have a couple more questions, if you don't mind. Thank you. How long have you been with voter GA?
Ever since I co-founded in 2006.
2006. Yeah. And do you have any staff?
We have no paid employees. We are all volunteers.
Are you paid?
Absolutely not. Never taken. In fact, my wife and I are two of the major donors to voter GA.
Okay. How much have you donated to voter GA over the years?
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay. Do you have a board, or either a formal board or advisory board or something like that?
We have a board.
Who's on there?
Ricardo Davis is one of our is another person that's on the board.
Who?
His name is Ricardo Davis.
Carter Davis?
Ricardo
Davis. Is that the only person?
Yeah, we have just,
Yeah.
It's a volunteer organization. We don't have a board of, this is an all volunteer organization. Can you imagine somebody working for 20 years as a volunteer just to try to fix this problem?
Sure.
You ought to be thanking me for that.
Okay. What's your budget?
What is our budget?
Yeah, your operational budget.
I think this is kind of fairly confidential, but we don't have an official budget. We are always trying to scrape to make sure we have enough money to keep the lights on.
Okay, so you received donations, right?
We do.
How much did you receive in 2024?
I don't know. I'm not the chief financial officer.
You don't know? You don't have a ballpark figure?
In
I'm not gonna give it to you.
2024, it's public record. You can look it up.
Can you share it with us?
I don't know. I don't know. What's your point?
Well, my point is, I understand your budget was approximately 24, or your donations, approximately $24,000 a year before 2020. After 2020, it has shot up to over $500,000.
There's a lot of people that were concerned over the 2020 election. I know you wouldn't realize that because you're not, but I had evidence to show you all the problems that we had in 2020. I had to cut that out so we could get to the solutions.
You received $75,000 from Michael Flynn, is that right?
No.
Is that not right, as reported in CNN?
I don't think we've ever. No, CNN lies. Don't you know that?
Thank you for that.
No, we've never gotten a donation.
Yeah, they said you
from
were a
Michael
nice
Flynn
lady.
that I know of.
You've coordinated with Cleta Mitchell on poll watching exercises, is that right?
I wouldn't say we coordinated with her, but we know we work with the Election Integrity Network.
Okay, how would you
I
describe
guess
it?
you could say that. We coordinate with the Election Integrity Network. I wouldn't say we coordinate with her personally, no.
Which is led by Cleta Mitchell.
That's correct.
Okay.
Great organization, by the way. Thank you for mentioning it. I would
No-
encourage everyone to become a member.
No
It's free.
problem.
It's free.
You describe yourself as a nonpartisan organization. Have you
Yes.
been similarly receiving donations and or working with people from the Democratic Party?
So you probably don't, and again, I had to cut out the history, which would have shown you, in the interest of time, I think it'd been easier just to tell the history. But the majority of our members were Democrats for up until 2002, because when they put the first system in, which was unverifiable to the voter, unauditable, and they couldn't recount it, it didn't have a ballot, it wasn't transparent. The Democrats believed that they were cheated out of the 2002 election in the Senate and gubernatorial races. I believe that they were right. And for a long time, the bulk of our, not completely, but a bulk of our members were Democrats. Suddenly in 2020, when the situation changed and Republicans got cheated, or at least the evidence seems to be that, then they became more quiet and our base ended up shifting. We have been nonpartisan for 20 years. And I think that proves it beyond any shadow of a doubt.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your personality and some more of your insights with us today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, what a bitch.
What, like I said, I mean, we've watched these things before. We've watched, all sorts of NGOs, and the Eric system was up earlier in this hearing. No questions like this. No, I mean, that lady was unhinged. That was absolutely uncalled for, what she did to him there.
Well, that's what they always do, Brian, is when they get caught on the substance and they can't address the substance, she couldn't dispute anything that he said. So all she could do was attack him, attack his organization, claim that they're super partisan. A Democrat calling anyone else super partisan is hilarious. Yeah, no, you were right. I'm proper pissed off now.
When I first heard her start with the poll says, I was like, oh my goodness, Ashe is her head's going to pop.
Yeah.
Because that's literally a gaslight. That is literally a gaslight. Everybody says it's fine, so therefore nothing to see here, move on.
It's also the wrong metric. We're talking about severe vulnerabilities in the system through which you, Miss Draper, are elected. So of course you don't want to look into it, because after people get a load of your personality, the polls are not going to say nice things about you.
No, definitely not. And I will be making her famous on X here shortly when I clip that out and share it up, because Garland has been one of the straightest shooters that I've ever dealt with. He was all over the Michelle Long Spears thing, the Democrat race there. I'm pretty sure he supported Bernie Sanders in 2020. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember hearing that. But anyways, they're more libertarian constitutionalists than anything. Ricardo Davis is very constitutionalist. It's a great organization, voterga.org, if you guys want to go over there and support Garland. He made $500,000 after 2020, which should probably tell these people that a lot of people want 2020 fixed. But your polls, well, he just made 25x his normal return on donations to his organization. So
Yeah, and VoterGA since 2020 has done a lot of great work to move the needle on elections. They were doing a lot of great work before 2020 to move the needle, but she's saying, "Oh, you got almost $500,000." Okay, look at the impact, and the impact of Georgia has one of the greatest grassroots networks. There's a lot of states with great grassroots networks, but Georgia has a fantastic one, and Garland Favorito and others like Holly Kessler are a big part of that.
Yep,
driving force of it, actually.
All right, guys, we are going to, like I said, next week we'll cover this part 2. Actually, no, we won't next week because I won't be here. Unless we do. Yeah, I gotta Christy's
Let's
brother.
record it.
All right, we'll record it then.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and before we get into the rants, let's talk about Cocoa Beach.
Going to Florida.
Yeah, coming down to my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that was my first GART, actually. The first Cocoa Beach was my first GART. And I'm excited to go back. It's a very cool hotel. It's right on the beach. And there's a really fun tiki bar kind of thing where everybody hangs. The food was great as I remember it. Great facilities, great rooms. And of course, it's GART. So there are shenanigans and all sorts of fun to be had. Our virtual tickets are also on sale now. So make sure that if you can't join us in person, we'll miss you. We'll be very upset about that. But you can still get in on the fun with a virtual ticket. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/events.
All right. And I'm actually going to try and get my dad to come up to this one. But
my parents are coming.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Then we'll introduce
I
him.
think Jackie's mom is coming too. And there might be some other parents coming.
Oh, man. There we go. All right. Christine Lee says, my husband says CannCon sounds like Speedy Gonzalez. Speedy Gonzalez, andale, arriba. Andale, arriba. I don't know why I can't roll my R's right now.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to get a ding for being racist on YouTube.
Oh, I don't care. Well, I'm not allowed to do an accent? How is that racist? Man, we got to stop.
I don't think it's that you're not allowed to do an accent. I think it was that yours was a little racist. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, how is that racist?
Just kidding.
The definition of racist is something that is demeaning or putting another race below my own.
Hate based on the color of one's skin.
It's not hate. It's in good.
That's
fun.
the definition of racism.
One with Cat says, just for the dramatic reading, go Jose, go.
It was fun.
Let's go. Says the Spanish anonymity and British questioning of Speedy Gonzalez had me rolling and replaying. Christine Lee, I was hearing Ms. Doubtfire and Speedy Gonzalez. I kind of miss them.
Ms. Doubtfire's accent was way more posh than my south of the river London Cockney.
Yeah, yours was more like at Buckingham Palace.
Dick Van Dyke is what it was.
Ready for tea. Like I feel like you were teaching etiquette.
Hello, Governor.
There you go. Oh yeah, now we're going British Isles, Pirates of the Caribbean. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. Stay tuned. You got
hit the thumb though. That would help us out. We didn't even ask you guys once. Not one time did we ask you, but we're asking now. So please hit the like button because it helps us.
And share the show out. This was a pretty good show, although they'll call me racist. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
You get used to it. Fine.
Don't care. I'll put my sombrero on next time, and then we'll be good. All right, guys, stay tuned. You got Spellbreakers coming up, folled by Onlylands.
Are you coming on Onlylands?
I may or may not. I don't know. It depends on how bad Christy is at me. So we'll see. Okay. But I'm going to go eat dinner now. So God bless, guys. Have a great weekend and stay tuned.
Bye, guys.
They say confidence starts with a smooth skin. And baby, soft disclosure lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. Like, I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that, like, I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. Like, my hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without, like, rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting soft disclosure on. Like, it is black man approved. I kid you not.
Black man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
feet are like, they get so dry, like the heels of them, it'll just kind of like flake off. Like, but with soft disclosure, once you put it on, like it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com, use code BADLANDS, and get 15% off.